Do you hate skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty? Do you want to know why skill-based matchmaking has gotten so strong in recent years for Call of Duty? Then this video is for you. You guys already know that I'm kind of tired about talking about skill-based matchmaking at this point because for so long, it has just felt like nothing's going to be done about it for new Call of Duty games, right? Well, Call of Duty kind of did something really surprising, and they actually put out an official statement talking about matchmaking systems for the new Call of Duty games. So I'm going to read you guys the entire statement. We're going to break it down and react to certain sections of it. But most importantly, I want to ask the question, why though? Why has it taken so long for them to finally address skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty? Well, let's try to make sense of it. This is the official statements from the Call of Duty team. They said, quote, "We know there is a lot of interest in the matchmaking experience, especially around how skill contributes to how lobbies and matches are put together. Nothing is more important to us than the experience players have with the game, and matchmaking is a big part of that. We've been working on our matchmaking system for well over 10 years, and we continue to spend a ton of time and energy on improving the matchmaking process. This involves people working at our Call of Duty studios, our backend services teams at Demonware, and other groups like our Player Insights team. It's a large effort that we've worked on for many years, and our approach combines latency, search time, and skill, along with many other factors to try to find the best match experience for you. Talking about this topic in detail can be hard.
It's very hard.
And we haven't spent the time to pull together all of our work to share with you our insights and improvements over the many years. We're looking forward to doing that in the coming weeks after Season 1 launches, and we'll also make it a part of our ongoing discussions with the community.
Love Call of Duty."
Okay, so there it is. Call of Duty has just made history, and they are finally going to be addressing matchmaking in Call of Duty. Now, there are some key things I want to point out in this statement, because obviously it was very well crafted, but since everyone that's watching this video is a genius, I'm sure you can see right through some of the different things, especially the wording in this statement. First and foremost, you might have noticed that they didn't even explicitly refer to skill-based matchmaking or engagement-optimized matchmaking. I'm gonna highlight every single part of this statement that just says matchmaking because yes, while most people have complaints about skill-based matchmaking, the truth is that the matchmaking system is more complex than that, but this is a tactical move. They don't want to specifically refer to their own matchmaking system as just skill-based matchmaking because that could stir up even more controversy. Because you see, in this sentence here, they said that their matchmaking system combines latency, search time, and skill along with many other factors to try to find the best match experience for you. That is their choice of wording, and notice how they're starting by mentioning latency, which would be the connection. I think a lot of us would disagree that latency is the #1 priority when it comes to matchmaking, but they have tactically put it here at the beginning of the sentence to make it seem like it's the first and most important thing. As well as search times, which I also think is a little controversial just because all of the OGs who played the older Call of Duty games, especially COD 4, that's my favorite reference, even to this day when people are playing COD 4 and they're booting it up and going to play TDM, you matchmake and find a lobby in like a matter of seconds, dude. It's so fast. Whereas in the current Call of Duty games, it could take a while to find a match. And this is for a game with millions of players. Now, when it comes to matchmaking search times, the reason why it sometimes takes longer is actually kind of a psychological thing. I've seen some interviews and I've seen some people talk about this, and apparently the reason why the search times can take a while is because they want to make you think that the game is working really hard to find you a good quality match. But I don't know about you guys, I think it's kind of a waste of time. If the game knows what match you belong in, whether that's based on skill or if it's just trying to find you a good match with a low ping or a good connection, I'm not gonna lie, I would rather be thrown into a match faster than have to sit around and wait. But like I've mentioned before, part of the reason why they also want you to wait and why the search times go for longer is so that way you have some breathing room and you have some time to potentially, make classes, change around your perks, and also check out the store. Like I said, the matchmaking system is very complex. New Call of Duty games obviously have skill-based matchmaking and engagement-optimized matchmaking, but even then, that is just part of a bigger overall equation. Now, even though I'm trying to dissect this PR statements like a 6th grader who's dissecting their first frog in school, I really do want to try my best to get an A++. But real quick, before we ask the question as to why they're even addressing this in the first place, one more thing I want to point out is that they are not going to be fully addressing this until after Season 1 for Modern Warfare 3 launches. Again, this is a very tactical decision. They don't want to talk about the matchmaking before Season 1 drops. It's been kind of known for a while with recent Call of Duty games that typically when a new season drops, they also loosen up the matchmaking a little bit, in the sense that whenever a new season drops, they don't necessarily wipe your skill-based matchmaking, but they tend to give people some easier lobbies initially, at least easier than what they typically play, so that way they can get in, they can enjoy the new content, so that way no matter what type of player you are, you can get onto the new season and you can have fun and enjoy it for a little bit before getting completely stomped. prolonged. So my best guess is they're going to drop Season 1 for Modern Warfare 3, and then once we start to feel the skill-based matchmaking start to ramp up again and start to get a little bit stronger and stricter as Season 1 goes on, then they're going to talk about it. So yes, now I want to ask the big question. Why are they deciding to talk about this all of a sudden, right? The matchmaking systems for the recent Call of Duty games has been a massive topic that's been endlessly debated pretty much since Modern Warfare 2019, but obviously there have been some other specific Call of Duty games where skill-based matchmaking was a big part of the conversation as well, but definitely not as much as it has been recently. And a big part of this has to do with Modern Warfare 2019 because the skill-based matchmaking system was abused and manipulated by the player base. There's countless posts and videos and discussions about how you can basically manipulate the matchmaking system in Modern Warfare 2019 and reverse boost and get easy lobbies. And even though they've been trying to improve and refine these systems, it's still happening nowadays. And I'll give you a prime example towards the end of the video. But I do want to try to make sense of this. Like, why are they just now starting to actually address the matchmaking systems? Well, most recently, Sledgehammer Games decided to do a Reddit Ask Me Anything, where the community could ask them questions and they would do their best to answer the community's biggest concerns and questions about Modern Warfare 3, right? Well, they did kind of do that, but the community also spams them with questions about skill-based matchmaking. The internet's essentially hijacked the Reddit AMA, and like I've said before as well, it was kind of infuriating because there are a lot of other things that probably should have been talked about and addressed for the game that got completely ignored because of the skill-based matchmaking spam. So that could be one reason as to why they're finally going to open up and be more transparent about it and talk about it with the community. But a big part of me is thinking that they don't really want to have to change anything or really explain that much about it or tell us really what's going on. They could be wanting to talk about it so that way stuff like this doesn't happen in the future. So that way if a dev team wants to do a Reddit AMA, they can actually do it and not just be spammed with the same question over and over again. So that's one possibility. We do have to also keep in mind that the discussion and debates about skill-based matchmaking, they did exist before Modern Warfare 2019, but they've become so much more frequent and so much more intense that it feels like it's been building up to a point where they kind of have to talk about it. We got a big old SBMM elephant in the room, and it really needs to be addressed. Otherwise, that elephant's gonna stomp all over us like we're a bunch of bots. Clearly, the elephant's a reverse booster. But if you really think about it, if skill-based matchmaking has been such an issue since Modern Warfare 2019, why didn't Infinity Ward address it back then? Or how come Treyarch didn't address it with Cold War? Because it followed a very similar system. Both of those games at that time had a pretty decent reception. But then after Cold War, Sledgehammer released Vanguard, and Vanguard did not have a very positive community reception. And even though Modern Warfare 2 had a very successful launch and the community was really enjoying it at first, over time, Infinity Ward seemed very distanced from the community, and they did not really want to talk about really anything regarding Modern Warfare 2. And as the game's lifecycle went on, people started becoming more and more negative towards the game, which obviously makes it harder to want to talk about and address things. If the community is not feeling good about the game and they're starting to get hostile, then of course they're not really going to want to talk about it, because that's just bad timing. It's really COD timing, you know? But I feel like with Modern Warfare 3 specifically, we've hit a very unique opportunity. Even though Modern Warfare 3 didn't break sales records, they did show that Modern Warfare 3 has had some of the best engagements for any new Call of Duty game. People are playing the multiplayer and the zombies and even the campaign. Yes, the campaign. More than any other Call of Duty game. They have hit record numbers for engagement and stuff like that. Generally speaking, the community has been very receptive to the changes that Sledgehammer Games made, and I would say a lot of people are satisfied with the multiplayer in general. But I think the biggest surprise is really the zombies. The zombies experience in Modern Warfare 3, while it's not perfect and it's not what everyone wants, I think Modern Warfare zombies actually surprise a lot of people, and a lot of people are playing and enjoying it. And since it seems like a good chunk of people are actually enjoying the game and they're staying on it and playing it, this seems like a prime opportunity for Sledgehammer Games to capitalize on that and finally talk about matchmaking. Finally put it to rest, finally put it to bed. Especially because even around the time of the Modern Warfare 3 beta, it seems like Sledgehammer Games has been way more receptive to community feedback than any other team working on Call of Duty, which again, Modern Warfare 2019 and Cold War, I want to say that a good chunk of the player base was enjoying those games and they had a positive reception to it. But those games are being directed and led by different studios. Modern Warfare 2019 was led by Infinity Ward and Cold War was led by Treyarch. Right now, the show is being run by Sledgehammer Games, and maybe they just want to handle things differently. Especially because that big change and boost to skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty, that has been associated with Modern Warfare 2019 and Infinity Ward, not Sledgehammer. So maybe Sledgehammer is also potentially going to take the fall for this, which wouldn't really surprise me because that's how they've been treating them as a studio for quite a while now. I've talked in depth about the development cycle for Modern Warfare 3 as well, and how Sledgehammer Games only had so much time to work on the game too, so it just kind of makes sense. But I truly do think that the biggest upper hand that they have right now is the fact that people are really giving Modern Warfare 3 a chance. They're giving Sledgehammer Games a chance. And I do think there's a chance that if this game was just a massive flop and everyone was against them and they didn't like the game, that they would rightfully be hesitant to want to talk about matchmaking with the community at that point in time. Another thing that I want us to keep in mind is that XDefiant is also putting pressure on Call of Duty. Even though the game is still not fully out yet, the game will have no skill-based matchmaking in public matches, as well as no disbanding lobbies if you queue for a single game mode. This has been a big marketing tactic for XDefiant that has worked out extremely well for them and resonated very well with the players who have played the game so far. And even though XDefiant will most likely not kill Call of Duty, it is going to compete alongside it, and Call of Duty is definitely going to keep an eye out for XDefiant because the game is being created by ex-Call of Duty devs. The people working on XDefiant know what makes Call of Duty games good and bad, and they have learned a lot over time, which does give them a competitive edge. But even though that's a factor as well, it doesn't necessarily mean that Call of Duty is going to make big sweeping changes to their matchmaking systems. But what it does mean is that for the first time, they're willing to be open with the community and have a conversation about what's really going on when you click to queue up for matches nowadays. Warning. When it comes to them making a follow-up statement about the matchmaking systems, I do fully expect them to not address engagement optimized matchmaking or any of the specific patents that they filed for that I've covered before on the channel. Again, this is a very carefully worded PR statement, and they were very careful with their wording, and I expect the full announcements to be the same as well. We should also manage our expectations and not get our hopes up for the full removal of skill-based matchmaking in new COD games because it's very unlikely to happen. And don't get me wrong, I want things to change. I think an ideal matchmaking system for Call of Duty public matches would prioritize connection first and then balance the teams in the pregame lobby so the matches are fair. That's how it used to be, and I think we had a great system before. But if I can come back to reality for a second, I do fully expect Call of Duty to maintain their existing matchmaking system, regardless if there's a public announcement or complete silence. And like I've said before, if skill-based matchmaking in the new and current Call of Duty games is a breaking point for you, I really don't recommend trying to play through it at this point. You're just gonna drive yourself insane. My top suggestions for people who are burnt out on the skill-based matchmaking system in the newer Call of Duty games is to consider maybe playing some single-player games, maybe go back and play some old Call of Duty games where the skill-based matchmaking isn't as strong, or even consider checking out XDefiant when the game fully releases. But before I end this video, there have been some really interesting rumors going around about skill-based matchmaking in Modern Warfare 3. The first big one that I want to talk about is the fact that Sledgehammer Games might consider toning back skill-based matchmaking. Now, there isn't any concrete proof about this, but there were some people that were invited out to Sledgehammer Games, and apparently Sledgehammer did talk to them about the matchmaking system, and some of those creators, they might actually know more than we do at the moment. Now, I'm not 100% sure if they're going to tone back skill-based matchmaking for basically every public match game mode that we have in the game, but I feel like it's more likely that Sledgehammer Games would be utilizing the experimental playlist to potentially test out some different matchmaking parameters and see what works well and what doesn't. And what's fascinating about this is that they could have already been doing this. They could be doing it right now. It's kind of hard to know for sure because there have been discrepancies depending on what game mode you play. For example, we have 10v10 Mosh Pit and we have Ground War, and since those bigger game modes require more players, it's been known for a while that typically game modes like that don't have as strict of skill-based matchmaking because they need to find more players. If the skill-based matchmaking was too strict, then the search times and the matchmaking times would be too long. Versus if you're playing game modes with smaller player counts like Cutthroat, which we have right now, and also Gunfight, which is coming out with Season 1. Since you only need a handful of players to start those matches, there's always the chance that they could prioritize connection better because it doesn't require as many players, but that could also mean that you're playing against people at your skill level more accurately because the game doesn't need to balance the teams as much, and because it could be easier on the matchmaking system to find someone that's closer to your skill level at that particular moment when you're going to search. So yeah, that's a very interesting rumor that's going on right now, but there's also this other one that really blew my mind, but maybe not in the way that you're thinking. I saw this really bizarre clip floating around on Twitter, and it's a clip of a guy playing Hardpoint on Rust, and strangely enough in the pregame lobby, it looked like he actually had AI, like full-blown actual bots in his match, both on his team and on the enemy team. This player was able to go around and shoot and kill the bots, and it was unlocking him calling cards, so it wasn't a private match. This player was actually getting XP and progress towards whatever they were doing in multiplayer. But they weren't even going up against actual people. These were just bot accounts. And what made it even more strange is that the teammates were all moving in unison. all of these bots, they weren't performing like typical recruit or regular or veteran difficulty bots in private match. No, they were all doing the exact same thing at the same time. It was just bizarre. So now there's a bunch of conspiracy theories floating around, and there's some rumors about how there is actual AI in multiplayer, like just straight up, like there's just bots planted everywhere, right? Well, apparently not. It got debunked in the comments saying that there's apparently bot lobby services that you can pay for. So like you could actually pay someone to host one of these lobbies for you. Like they can apparently just generate essentially harmless bots. I think they will still shoot you and stuff like that, but regardless, the server itself will just generate random bots that you can shoot and kill. And people are apparently paying money for this so they can get their camos unlocked, which is, I'm gonna be honest, it's super lame. This has definitely caused quite the ruckus. Some funky business is going on in these Call of Duty matches, but even though Activision, I'm sure, has the power to just put bots or AI in matches, I don't think they would do that without explicitly telling us. I'm not sure if they would be legally required to disclose that, but it would just be really weird if they didn't publicly say that, you know? I think a prime example is that games like Fortnite and even Battlefield 2042, both of these games have put bots and AI in multiplayer for certain scenarios. Battlefield 2042 had bot fill so that way the games don't feel too empty because they had that crazy ambitious idea to have 128 players versus 128 players, which obviously makes it very difficult to fill those lobbies entirely, so that's why they have AI fill. That's why they have bots filling up the server from time to time. And Fortnite has utilized it in a way so that way if you're a new player or someone who just doesn't really know what's going on and you have like a low skill rating, you can play in matches that have a mix of bots and actual players, so that way you can get accustomed to the game. This could potentially set a really bad precedent, and people might start thinking that no matter what happens, if they're playing Modern Warfare 3, there could just be some random AI or a bot in the server. Unless we can definitively prove that there's AI in the multiplayer, I don't know if I'd jump to those conclusions quite yet. This could just be a weird case of someone accidentally joining into one of these bot-generated lobbies or whatever. I mean, come on, guys. We've had bots in multiplayer before. Black Ops 2 had online combat training. If they were really gonna put bots in the multiplayer, they could just straight up tell us. But yes, that was the official statement from Call of Duty about the matchmaking systems in the current games. I really do want to thank you guys for watching this video and taking the time to listen to everything that I had to say about this. And even though I'm at that breaking point where I don't want to sit here and whine and complain about skill-based matchmaking, this is very interesting and I want to keep you guys up to date with it so that way you guys also know what's going on. And with that being said, I really do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did and you want to see me cover the full statement when that gets released, make sure to drop a like. I'll see you guys later.
Outcome, Tango.